The alpha left her for a princess. Then he watched his son call another man father. Chapter 1. 6 years earlier. Rain hammered the roof of the servants' quarters. Lena sat beside a small window. A basket of unfinished laundry rested near her feet. Outside, the entire pack prepared for celebration. Inside, her world was falling apart. A knock came at the door. Before she could answer, her friend Mara rushed inside. Mara looked pale. Too pale. Lena? Something twisted in Lena's stomach. What happened? Mara hesitated. Then she handed over an invitation card. The royal seal gleamed in silver. Lena stared. Her hands trembled. No. Mara looked away. I'm sorry. Lena unfolded the card. One sentence blurred before her eyes. Alpha Kale of Black Mountain Pack will announce his mating to Princess Celine of the royal bloodline. The room spun. For a moment she forgot how to breathe. No. The word escaped as a whisper. A broken whisper. He promised. Mara rushed forward. Lena! He promised. Her voice cracked. 3 nights ago, Kale had kissed her beneath the moonlit cliffs. 3 nights ago he had promised nothing would separate them. 3 nights ago he had called her his future. Now this. Now a princess. Now another woman. Lena's knees nearly gave out. Mara caught her arm. Maybe there's an explanation. But Lena already knew. Power. Status. Politics. A servant could never compete with a princess. Not even if the alpha loved her. Not even if he once swore forever. Hours later, the entire pack gathered in the grand hall. Lena stood hidden behind a stone pillar. She should have stayed away. But her heart demanded answers. The hall exploded with cheers. Alpha Kale entered. Tall, strong, handsome, everything she once loved. Beside him walked Princess Celine. Beautiful, elegant, perfect. A future Luna everyone would admire. The crowd roared. Kale looked across the room. For one brief second his eyes found Lena. Everything around her disappeared. The music, the cheers, the voices. Only him. Only those familiar gray eyes. And something flashed inside them. Pain, regret, guilt. Then it vanished. Princess Celine slipped her arm through his. The moment broke. The crowd erupted again. Lena felt something inside her crack. A deep wound. One she knew might never heal. The ceremony ended late. Most guests stayed to celebrate. Lena slipped outside. Cold rain soaked her dress. She barely noticed. Footsteps followed. She already knew who it was. Kale. Wait. She stopped. But she didn't turn around. Lena. His voice sounded rough, like he hadn't slept. Please look at me. Slowly she faced him. Rain ran down both their faces. For several seconds neither spoke. Finally she asked the only question that mattered. Was any of it real? Pain crossed his face. Every muscle tightened. You know it was. Then why? He looked away. Silence answered first. And silence hurt more than lies. Tell me. His jaw clenched. The kingdom needs this alliance. Lena laughed. A terrible laugh. Small. Broken. So that's it. No. Then what is it? Kale stepped closer. His voice lowered. I had no choice. You always had a choice. The words struck him. She saw it. Saw the guilt. Saw the regret. Yet none of it changed anything. A princess would become his mate. Not her. Never her. Kale reached for her hand. She pulled away. The movement hurt them both. Lena, don't. His face turned pale. For a moment, she almost pitied him. Almost. Then she remembered the invitation, the announcement, the future he chose. And the future he destroyed. Tears filled her eyes. I loved you. The confession hung between them. Kale closed his eyes, as if the words physically wounded him. When he opened them again, they looked haunted. I know. No apology, no explanation, no promise. Just those 2 words. I know. Lena nodded slowly. Then she turned away. This time he didn't stop her. The next morning she packed everything she owned, which wasn't much. A few dresses, a necklace from her mother, and memories she wished she could leave behind. Mara watched with red eyes. "Are you sure?" Lena forced a smile. "If I stay, I'll never heal." "Where will you go?" "I don't know." That was the truth. She had no family, no home, no plan, only a broken heart, but staying would destroy her. Before noon, she left Black Mountain Pack forever. She never saw Kale again. Or so she thought. 3 weeks later, while traveling through the western forests, Lena collapsed beside a river. An elderly healer found her. When Lena finally woke inside a small cottage, the healer smiled gently. "Good, you're awake." Lena sat up. Pain shot through her body. "What happened?" "You fainted." The old woman hesitated. Then her smile widened. "And unless my eyes have failed me." Lena frowned. The healer placed a hand on her shoulder. "My dear," her voice softened, "you're carrying a child." The world stopped. Lena stared, unable to speak, unable to move, unable to think. A child. Kale's child. And suddenly she understood why fate had not finished with her yet. Because the greatest secret of her life had only just begun. And somewhere far away, Alpha Kale remained completely unaware that the woman he abandoned was carrying his son. Chapter 2. The cottage stood at the edge of a quiet valley. Surrounded by wildflowers, protected by mountains, hidden from the rest of the world. For the first time in weeks, Lena felt safe. Yet every morning she woke with the same fear. What would happen when her child was born? The elderly healer, Nora, seemed to sense her worries. One evening she placed a bowl of soup on the table. "You've barely eaten." Lena managed a smile. "I'm trying." Nora sat across from her. "The baby needs strength." The word still felt strange. Baby. A tiny life growing inside her. A tiny life connected to Kale. The thought hurt. But it also filled her heart with warmth. Because unlike Kale, this child had never betrayed her. Weeks turned into months. The valley slowly became home. Lena helped gather herbs. She cleaned the cottage. She learned healing techniques from Nora. And little by little, her broken heart began to heal. Not completely, never completely, but enough to keep moving forward. One afternoon, she returned from collecting flowers. Nora stood outside the cottage, her expression troubled. Immediately, Lena felt uneasy. "What happened?" Nora glanced toward the forest. "We have visitors." Lena froze. Visitors were rare. Very rare. The valley was hidden for a reason. Who? "I don't know." Fear crawled up her spine. For one terrible moment, she imagined Kale. Had he found her? Did he somehow know? But when 3 riders emerged from the trees, none of them were Kale. The man in front wore dark traveling clothes. No royal symbols. No pack markings. Nothing that revealed his identity. Yet something about him felt dangerous. He dismounted slowly. His eyes immediately found Lena. Then widened slightly. Not with desire, not with recognition, with surprise. As if he hadn't expected to see her. The stranger bowed respectfully. "My apologies for disturbing your peace." His voice was calm, deep, controlled. Nora stepped forward. "What do you want?" The stranger smiled faintly. "We're only passing through." His gaze returned to Lena. For a brief second, then disappeared. Still, something felt strange. Very strange. Lena couldn't explain why. The man introduced himself as Rowan. Nothing more. No family name, no title, no explanation, just Rowan. Nora clearly didn't trust him. Neither did Lena. But the travelers seemed exhausted. Night approached, and storms were common in the mountains. Finally, Nora agreed to let them stay until morning. That evening, everyone gathered around the fireplace. Rain hammered the roof. The travelers shared stories, mostly harmless stories. Roads, weather, nearby villages. Yet Lena noticed something. Rowan barely spoke. Instead, he watched, observed, listened, like a man searching for something, or someone. Several times she caught him looking at her. Each time he immediately looked away. The behavior unsettled her. Finally she stood. "I'm tired." Nora nodded. Get some rest. Lena headed toward her room. Before entering, she heard Rowan's voice. How long has she lived here? Silence followed. Then Nora answered. Long enough. The reply carried warning. The conversation ended immediately. Lena closed her door, but sleep refused to come. Hours later she woke suddenly. A sound outside. Voices. Whispers. She carefully approached the window. 3 shadows stood near the horses. Rowan and his companions. Arguing. One of the men sounded worried. We should tell him. Rowan's voice turned cold. No. He deserves to know. Not yet. Lena's heartbeat quickened. Who were they discussing? A king? An alpha? A family member? Then she heard words that made her blood run cold. If Alpha Kale discovers this first, Lena gasped. Outside, silence instantly followed. The shadows stopped moving. For a horrible second, she feared they heard her. She stepped back from the window, heart racing. Alpha Kale. Why were strangers talking about him? Why mention him here? In this hidden valley? The next morning, the travelers left before sunrise. No farewell. No explanation. Nothing. Only hoofprints remained. Yet the mystery stayed behind. Weeks passed. Winter arrived. Snow covered the valley. Lena tried to forget the travelers. Tried to forget Kale's name. But unease lingered. Then one night, everything changed. Labor pains struck without warning. The pain was overwhelming. Relentless. Hours blurred together. Nora never left her side. Keep breathing, Lena cried out. Sweat covered her skin. Fear gripped her heart. What if something went wrong? What if she lost the baby? No, she couldn't. Not after everything. The storm outside grew violent. Wind screamed through the valley. The cottage shook. Then suddenly, a cry. Small. Strong. Alive. Lena burst into tears. Nora smiled through her own tears. You have a son. A son, her son, their son. Nora gently placed the baby in her arms. The world disappeared. The pain disappeared. The loneliness disappeared. Only the child remained. Tiny fingers. Tiny nose. Golden eyes. Golden eyes. Exactly like Kale's. Lena's breath caught. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. Even as a newborn. The baby stared up at her. Calm. Curious. Perfect. Hello? She whispered. The child grabbed her finger, and in that instant, she knew. No matter what happened, no matter how difficult life became, she would protect him. Always. She kissed his forehead. What should I call him? Nora smiled. The answer came surprisingly easily. Ethan. The name felt right. Like fate. Like destiny. Ethan yawned. The 2 women laughed softly. For the first time in many months, happiness filled the cottage. Real happiness. The kind Lena thought she had lost forever. But fate wasn't finished with her. Not even close. 3 days later, a wounded messenger arrived in the valley. His horse collapsed from exhaustion. Blood covered his clothes. Nora rushed outside. Lena followed while carrying Ethan. The messenger barely remained conscious. He grabbed Nora's arm. They found it. Nora's face changed instantly. Fear. Real fear. What are you talking about? The messenger swallowed hard. The royal hunters. Lena's stomach tightened. The ancient records. The messenger looked around desperately. Then his gaze landed on Ethan. The color drained from his face. Oh no. Lena hugged her son tighter. What is it? The messenger stared at the baby's golden eyes. Then whispered words that turned the winter air ice cold. They're looking for a child. Silence. Complete silence. The child from the prophecy. The messenger pointed directly at Ethan, and I think they just found him. Chapter 3. The room fell silent. Only the crackling fire could be heard. Lena tightened her hold on Ethan. The baby slept peacefully in her arms, completely unaware that strangers were suddenly speaking about prophecies, about hunters, about him. Nora's face had turned pale. The wounded messenger looked exhausted, but the fear in his eyes felt real, very real. Lena stood. What prophecy? Neither of them answered. Nora, her voice trembled. What prophecy? The old healer exchanged a look with the messenger, a look that instantly made Lena angry. You know something. Nora sighed heavily. I hoped it would never matter. What does that mean? The old woman slowly sat down. For several seconds she stared into the fire. Then she finally spoke. Many years ago, before you were born, a seer visited the northern kingdom. Lena listened carefully. The seer spoke of a child, the messenger continued. A child who would unite bloodlines that were never meant to unite. Lena frowned. I don't understand. Neither did anyone else. The messenger swallowed. But after the seer's death, people discovered ancient records. What records? Nora answered quietly. Records about the first Alpha Kings. A chill ran through Lena. Every child knew the stories. The first Alpha Kings were legends. Almost myths. Powerful rulers whose wolves were stronger than ordinary wolves. Their bloodline had supposedly disappeared centuries ago. At least that's what everyone believed. The messenger pointed toward Ethan. The prophecy says, the lost bloodline would return through a child. Lena immediately shook her head. No, the idea sounded ridiculous. Impossible. You're mistaken. The messenger looked unconvinced. Maybe, but the royal hunters clearly disagree. Nora nodded grimly. They've spent years searching. Lena's heart raced. Searching for what? The old healer hesitated, then answered. For children with golden eyes. Silence filled the cottage. Lena looked down at Ethan. His eyes. Kale's eyes. Golden eyes. Suddenly nothing felt impossible anymore. Nothing. The messenger leaned forward. If the hunters discover Ethan exists, they will take him. Lena's blood turned cold. No. They won't ask permission. No. They answer directly to the crown. Lena stood so quickly her chair nearly fell. No one is taking my son. The protective growl in her voice surprised even herself. Nora smiled faintly. The messenger did too. For the first time. Because every wolf parent understood that tone. The tone that said, touch my child and suffer the consequences. The following days became tense. Very tense. Nora doubled the protective wards around the valley. The messenger left after recovering. But before leaving, he delivered one final warning. The hunters are moving west. Lena watched him right away. Fear settled deep inside her chest. Every sound made her nervous. Every stranger felt dangerous. Every shadow looked suspicious. Winter dragged on. Months passed. Then Ethan began to grow. Fast. Too fast. At least according to Nora. At 6 months old he already walked. At 7 months he could understand simple words. At 8 months something impossible happened. Lena found him outside the cottage one morning, laughing, playing in the snow, surrounded by wolves. Not ordinary wolves. Wild wolves. Huge wolves. At least 10 of them. Lena nearly screamed. Ethan! The wolves immediately turned. She expected growls, threats, danger. Instead, every wolf lowered its head. Respectfully. As if greeting royalty. Ethan giggled. One giant silver wolf nudged him gently. The baby hugged its neck. Lena stood frozen. Nora appeared beside her. Neither spoke. Finally, Lena whispered, Am I dreaming? No. What is happening? Nora looked troubled. I was afraid of this. The giant silver wolf approached Ethan, then lay down beside him like a loyal guardian, a protector, a servant, not a predator. Lena stared. The impossible scene felt completely real. He controls them? Nora slowly nodded. Or they recognize him. The answer wasn't comforting. Not even slightly. That night Lena barely slept. Questions filled her mind. Who was Ethan? Why did wolves obey him? Why were hunters searching for children like him? And most importantly, how much of this came from Kale? The thought lingered long after midnight. Far away, hundreds of miles north, Kale stood alone on a palace balcony. Snow drifted through the darkness. 6 years had changed him. The young alpha who once laughed easily was gone. In his place stood a colder man, a harder man, A lonelier man. Princess Celine stepped onto the balcony. She wore expensive silks, jewels, everything a future queen should possess. Yet, there was no warmth between them. Not anymore. Perhaps there never had been. The council meeting starts soon. Kale didn't move. I know. Celine studied him. You still think about her. The statement wasn't a question. Kale's jaw tightened. Celine laughed bitterly. 6 years. Silence. 6 years, and you still can't forget a servant. His eyes flashed. Immediately she regretted the words. Because despite everything, despite politics, despite alliances, despite power, everyone knew one truth. Kale had never loved Celine. Not truly. Not once. He finally turned toward her. Leave. The single word carried enough force to end the conversation. Celine left, but hatred burned in her eyes. Dangerous hatred. The kind that grows over years. The kind that waits patiently. The kind that eventually destroys lives. Kale watched the snow fall. And once again remembered Lena. Her smile. Her laugh. The way she looked at him before he broke her heart. Regret remained his constant companion. His greatest wound. A knock interrupted his thoughts. His beta entered. Damon. The only person who could speak freely around him. We have news. Kale frowned. What kind of news? Damon's expression looked unusually serious. The royal hunters. Immediately Kale became alert. What about them? They found another child. Kale sighed. The prophecy again. For years the kingdom had obsessed over it. I don't care. Damon hesitated, then said something unexpected. This child has golden eyes. Kale froze. Something strange stirred inside him. A feeling he couldn't explain. A pull. A pressure. An instinct. His wolf suddenly became restless. Very restless. The reaction made no sense. Yet it felt powerful. Almost painful. Damon noticed immediately. Kale? The alpha stared into the darkness. His heartbeat quickened. For reasons he couldn't understand. For reasons he couldn't explain. It felt as though something precious existed somewhere in the world. Something connected to him. Something calling to him. Then his wolf whispered a single word. Mine. Kale's eyes widened. Because his wolf had never reacted like that before. Never. Not once in 6 years. And deep inside, a connection was beginning to awaken. A connection neither father nor son knew existed. Yet. Chapter 4. The feeling refused to disappear. For 3 days, Kale couldn't sleep properly. For 3 days, his wolf remained restless. Every instinct screamed that something important had changed. Something was waiting for him. Somewhere. Damon noticed immediately. You look terrible. Kale glared at him. Thank you. I'm serious. Damon crossed his arms. You haven't slept. Kale looked away. The truth was obvious. Every time he closed his eyes, he dreamed of golden eyes. Not Lena. Not Celine. Not the prophecy. Golden eyes. A child. A laughing child. Each dream ended the same way. The boy vanished before Kale could reach him. And every time he woke feeling empty. Like he had lost something precious. Something that belonged to him. Something he had never possessed. The feeling made no sense. Yet it refused to leave. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Ethan was causing trouble. The good kind. Mostly. Lena chased him through a field of wildflowers. Ethan! The little boy laughed. He was almost 6 now. Fast, fearless, and impossible to catch. You promised to stay near the cottage. I was near. You were in the forest. That's near. Lena sighed. Nora laughed from the porch. He sounds exactly like someone else. Lena immediately knew who she meant. Kale. Ethan had inherited more than golden eyes. The same stubbornness. The same confidence. The same fearless smile. Some days it hurt to look at him. Not because she regretted him. Never. Because he reminded her of a future she lost. Ethan. The boy finally stopped running. What? Lena knelt beside him. The world outside the valley is dangerous. His smile faded slightly. Because of the hunters? The question shocked her. She rarely mentioned them. Very rarely. Yet children always noticed more than adults expected. Sometimes, Ethan looked thoughtful, then asked quietly, "Are they looking for me?" The innocence in his voice nearly broke her heart. Lena gently touched his cheek. "No matter who is looking for you." His golden eyes locked onto hers. "I'll always protect you." The little boy smiled. "I know." Then he hugged her, tightly. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Safe, peaceful, normal. Then a distant howl echoed through the mountains. Every wolf in the valley instantly froze, including Ethan. The boy's smile disappeared. The wild wolves surrounding the valley suddenly became alert. Growls echoed from the forest. Lena felt cold fear rise inside her. Something was wrong. Very wrong. That night, the wolves gathered around the cottage. Dozens of them. Watching, waiting, protecting. Nora stepped outside. Her face looked grim. "They're coming." Lena swallowed. "Who?" "The hunters." The words landed like a stone. Fear exploded inside her chest. How close? Closer than ever. Ethan sat quietly near the fireplace, listening, watching, understanding more than a child should. Lena looked at her son. At the little boy she had spent 6 years protecting. The little boy who had become her entire world. She knew what came next. She hated it. But she knew. "We leave tonight." Nora nodded. The old healer had expected the answer. "There isn't much time." They packed quickly. Food, blankets, medicine, a few personal belongings, nothing else. Everything Lena built in the valley would be left behind. Again. Just like 6 years earlier. Another home. Another goodbye. Another loss. Ethan watched quietly. Finally he asked, "Are we running away?" Lena forced a smile. "We're going on an adventure." The little boy considered this, then nodded. "Okay." The simple trust nearly made her cry. Hours later, darkness covered the mountains. Snow drifted through the night. The wolves escorted them from the valley. Silent guardians, protectors, friends. Lena carried a lantern. Ethan held her hand. Nora walked beside them. For several hours, everything remained calm. Then one wolf growled. A deep warning growl. Every wolf stopped. The forest fell silent. Dead silent. Lena's heart sank. She already knew. They found us. Arrows suddenly flew from the darkness. One wolf collapsed. Another cried out. Chaos exploded around them. "Hunters!" Nora shouted. Men emerged from every direction. Torches, weapons, horses. Too many. Far too many. The wolves attacked immediately. Growls filled the night. Steel clashed. Men screamed. Lena grabbed Ethan. "Run!" The little boy obeyed instantly. Snow flew beneath their feet. Branches struck their faces. Behind them, the battle intensified. Then a voice echoed through the forest. "Take the boy alive!" Fear flooded Lena. They weren't after her. Not Nora. Only Ethan. Exactly as the prophecy predicted. A rider suddenly appeared ahead, blocking their path. His horse reared. The hunter raised a crossbow. Lena stopped. There was nowhere to go. Nowhere. The hunter smiled. Found him. Ethan stepped behind her. His small hand squeezed hers. "Mama?" Lena positioned herself between the weapon and her son. Pure instinct. Pure protection. The hunter aimed directly at Ethan. Time seemed to slow. Lena knew she couldn't stop the bolt. She knew she couldn't reach him in time. Then, something impossible happened. A massive black wolf exploded from the darkness. The hunter never saw it coming. The wolf slammed into horse and rider. Both crashed into the snow. The wolf stood. Huge. Terrifying. Powerful. Bigger than any wolf Lena had ever seen. Even the hunters froze. The creature growled. A sound filled with authority, with dominance, with warning. The hunters backed away. Not because they wanted to, because instinct demanded it. The giant wolf slowly turned. Golden eyes met Ethan's. The boy stared. completely still. Then the impossible happened. The giant wolf lowered its head, in respect, just as every other wolf always did. The hunters saw it, and fear appeared on their faces, real fear. One hunter whispered, "It's true." Another stepped back. The prophecy. The giant wolf growled again. This time the entire forest seemed to tremble. Then Ethan spoke. One simple sentence. A sentence no 6-year-old should have understood. A sentence that changed everything. "They found me." Silence followed. Then the giant black wolf suddenly shifted. Bones cracked. Muscles changed. Fur disappeared. A man stood where the wolf had been. Tall, powerful, scarred, dangerous. Lena's breath caught, because she recognized him instantly. The traveler. The stranger from years ago. Rowan. And when Rowan looked at Ethan, his expression held something unexpected. Not fear, not curiosity, not surprise. Recognition. As if he had been searching for Ethan all along. Then Rowan said words that left Lena speechless. "We're out of time." He looked directly at her. "The king already knows your son exists." Chapter 5. For a moment, nobody moved. Snow drifted through the darkness. The hunters remained frozen. The wolves circled the clearing, and Lena stared at Rowan. "The king knows?" Her voice barely came out. Rowan's expression was grim. "Yes." Fear tightened around her chest. "How?" "We don't have time. I need answers." A hunter suddenly lunged forward. Rowan shifted his attention instantly. The warrior moved with terrifying speed. His fist connected with the hunter's jaw. The man collapsed into the snow, unconscious. "Answers later." Rowan grabbed Lena's arm. "Move." The urgency in his voice left no room for argument. They ran. Through snow, through darkness, through the forest. The wolves stayed close, protecting them, guiding them, hunting anyone who followed. Hours passed before they finally stopped. A hidden cave overlooked a frozen river. Rowan secured the entrance, then turned toward Lena. The silence that followed felt heavy, dangerous. Ethan sat beside Nora, watching everything carefully. Far too carefully for a 6-year-old. Lena folded her arms. "Talk?" Rowan sighed. "You deserve the truth." Finally. The warrior sat near the fire. For several moments he stared into the flames. Then he began. "6 years ago, I wasn't passing through your valley." Lena frowned. "What?" "I was searching." The memory returned instantly. The mysterious traveler, the questions, the strange looks. Everything suddenly felt different. "Searching for what?" "You." Silence. Lena blinked. "What?" Rowan nodded. "You." The answer made no sense. "Why?" "Because someone ordered me to find you." Lena's stomach tightened. "Who?" Rowan hesitated, then answered. "Alpha Kale." The cave became silent. Even Nora looked surprised. Lena stared, unable to speak, unable to think. Kale had searched for her? Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. "When?" "Almost immediately after you disappeared." Her heart skipped. "No. It's true." Rowan's voice remained calm. "He sent scouts. He sent warriors. He sent trackers. He searched for years." Lena shook her head. "Why would he do that?" Rowan looked at her carefully. "Asking me that question means you truly don't know." "Know what?" The warrior exhaled slowly, then delivered the first secret. The alliance never happened. The world seemed to stop. "What?" "Kale never completed the mating ceremony." Lena stared, confused, lost. No, that couldn't be right. She saw the announcement, the celebration, the princess, everything. Rowan continued. "The political agreement happened. The wedding preparations happened. But the mating never happened." Lena's voice trembled. "Why?" The answer came quietly. "Because Kale refused." Silence. Complete silence. Lena's heartbeat pounded in her ears. Rowan looked away. He tried. He truly tried, but every time the final ceremony approached, he postponed it. The warrior's expression softened slightly. Eventually, the princess realized the truth. What truth? His heart belonged to someone else. Pain flashed through Lena. Old pain. Buried pain. Pain she thought was gone. Far away. Very far away. Yet suddenly fresh again. He never told me. Rowan nodded. I know. Anger rose inside her. Not at Rowan, at Kale, at fate, at everything. He had 6 years. The warrior didn't argue. Because she was right. He had. The fire crackled softly. Then Ethan asked a question. The innocent question of a child. Who is Alpha Kale? Every adult froze. Lena felt her chest tighten. She wasn't ready. Not yet. Not tonight. Before she could answer, Rowan spoke. Someone important. Ethan frowned. To me? The warrior looked directly at the boy. For a moment something emotional appeared in his eyes. Something strange. Almost sadness. More than you know. The answer confused Ethan. But he accepted it. For now. Hours later, Ethan finally fell asleep, curled beside Nora. The cave became quiet. Only Lena and Rowan remained awake. She stared into the fire, thinking, remembering, hurting. Finally she asked, "Why are you helping us?" Rowan didn't answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded different, more personal, more vulnerable. "Because I owe a debt." "A debt?" He nodded. "To your father." Lena blinked. "My father died before I was born." "So you were told." The words hit her like lightning. She turned sharply. "What did you say?" Rowan's eyes met hers. Steady, certain. "Your father didn't die before your birth." The cave suddenly felt smaller, colder, impossible. "No." "It's true." "No." Lena stood, heart racing. "You're lying." Rowan remained seated. "No. My mother told me. Your mother was protecting you." The statement shattered her certainty. Lena backed away. Confused. Angry. Terrified. "Protecting me from what?" Rowan's face darkened. "The truth." "What truth?" For several seconds he said nothing, as if debating whether to continue. Then he finally spoke. "The bloodline." The word instantly reminded her of the prophecy. The hunters. The golden eyes. Everything. Rowan continued. "Your father belonged to the last surviving branch of the first Alpha Kings." The cave fell silent. Lena couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what she was hearing. "No, he did. That's impossible. Most people believe the bloodline vanished centuries ago." The warrior leaned forward. But it didn't. The fire cast shadows across his face, making him look older, tired, haunted. They hunted that bloodline. They feared it. They erased records. They killed families. Lena felt sick. Why? Because power terrifies people. The answer came softly. Especially kings. Everything suddenly connected. The prophecy, the hunters, Ethan, golden eyes, the wolves, the respect they showed him, all of it, every piece, every mystery, every impossible event. Her hands trembled. "My son inherited it." Rowan nodded. "Yes." The confirmation felt overwhelming. Then another realization struck her. If Ethan inherited it, then Kale wasn't the reason. Not completely. The bloodline came through her family, through secrets she never knew existed. A terrible thought entered her mind. What does the king want? Rowan's expression hardened immediately. The answer arrived in a cold whisper. He wants control. Fear returned, stronger than before. And if he can't control Ethan? The warrior didn't answer. He didn't need to, because everyone already knew. The silence said enough. Lena looked toward her sleeping son, her beautiful boy, the child she would die protecting. And suddenly she understood. This was never about a prophecy, never about legends, never about ancient bloodlines. It was about Ethan. People wanted him. People feared him. People would kill for him. And somewhere beyond the mountains, the king already knew he existed. But the biggest shock of the night was still waiting. A howl suddenly echoed outside the cave. Not a normal howl. A messenger howl. Urgent. Dangerous. Rowan immediately stood. His face changed. The wolf who arrived at the entrance shifted into human form. Blood covered his clothes. His breathing was ragged. Rowan, what happened? The wolf looked shaken, terrified. The royal army moved early. Lena's stomach dropped. How many? The wolf swallowed hard. 10,000. Silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Then the messenger delivered the final blow. They aren't coming for the boy anymore. Rowan frowned. What do you mean? The messenger's eyes shifted toward Ethan, then back to Rowan. The king issued a new order. Fear crawled down Lena's spine, slowly, painfully. What order? The messenger's voice shook. Bring the child alive. A pause. Then, kill the mother. Chapter 6. The words echoed through the cave. Kill the mother. Lena felt as if the ground disappeared beneath her feet. For a moment, she couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't think. The messenger lowered his head, as if ashamed to be the one delivering the news. Ethan continued sleeping, peacefully, unaware. The sight nearly broke her heart. Rowan's face darkened. Who gave the order? The king himself. Nora cursed under her breath. A rare thing. Very rare. That alone revealed how serious the situation had become. Lena forced herself to speak. Why? The messenger hesitated, then answered. Because they believe Ethan's loyalty comes from you. The cave fell silent. They think if you're removed, the boy will be easier to control. A chill ran through everyone present. The logic was cruel, but not impossible. Powerful rulers had committed worse crimes. Far worse. Rowan turned toward Lena. We leave immediately. She nodded. There was no other choice. An hour later they were moving again. Through mountains. Through snowstorms. Through dangerous territory. The journey became exhausting. Days blurred together. Every village was avoided. Every road ignored. Every stranger treated as a potential threat. The farther they traveled, the more obvious one truth became. The kingdom wasn't merely searching. It was hunting. One afternoon they found evidence. A burned farmhouse. Blackened walls. Broken furniture. Blood in the snow. Lena covered Ethan's eyes. Don't look. But he already had. The little boy stared silently. Far too silently. That night he barely spoke. Finally, while sitting beside the fire, he asked, Did they do that because of me? Lena immediately shook her head. No, but they're looking for me. The sadness in his voice hurt. Deeply. Painfully. No one is being hurt because of you. Ethan looked down. But they wouldn't be here if I wasn't alive. The words came from a 6-year-old, yet sounded much older, much wiser. Lena pulled him into her arms. You listen to me. He looked up, golden eyes shining in the firelight. You are not a mistake. His lip trembled. You are not a curse. A tear rolled down his cheek. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. The little boy hugged her tightly. And for the first time since leaving the valley, he cried. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just quiet tears. The tears of a child carrying fears too heavy for his age. Lena held him until he finally fell asleep. Afterward, she sat alone beneath the stars. The night was cold, silent, beautiful, and terrifying. Footsteps approached. Rowan. He sat beside her. Neither spoke immediately. The silence felt comfortable. Strangely comfortable. Finally, Rowan asked, Do you hate him? Lena knew exactly who he meant. Kale. The name still hurt. Even now. After 6 years. After everything. She thought carefully before answering. No. Rowan looked surprised. I thought you would. I wanted to. The honesty surprised even her. For several moments, she stared at the stars, then continued. There were years when I hated him. Her voice remained soft. There were nights I cried because of him. The memories still hurt. But differently now, like old scars, not fresh wounds. I hated what happened. Rowan nodded slowly. But not him. Lena looked away. Because that truth was harder to admit. Much harder. The warrior studied her face, then quietly asked if he knew about Ethan. She immediately interrupted. He didn't. How do you know? The question caught her off guard. Because she didn't. Not truly, not completely. But she wanted to believe it. Needed to believe it. Because if Kale had known, and never came, that pain would be impossible to forgive. Far away, in the royal capital, Kale stood inside the council chamber. The atmosphere felt tense, dangerous. The king sat upon his throne, an aging ruler, a clever ruler, a ruler who feared losing power. Around him stood nobles, generals, advisors, and Princess Celine. Kale's eyes remained cold. "Why am I here?" The king smiled. "Because I require your loyalty." Kale hated that smile. Always had. "What do you want?" The king gestured toward a map. Several locations had been marked. The western mountains, the northern forests, the hidden valleys. Every region Ethan had crossed. "The child has been found." Kale frowned. "Again this prophecy nonsense. I thought your hunters already found him." "They did." The king's expression shifted. But something changed. "What?" The king leaned forward. His eyes gleamed. "The boy controls wolves." Silence. Something stirred inside Kale immediately. A strange feeling. The same feeling he'd experienced for weeks. His wolf became alert. Restless. "Interested," the king continued. "Entire packs are protecting him." The room filled with murmurs. Kale listened quietly, then asked, "And?" The king's smile disappeared. "And his mother is preventing us from reaching him." Those words triggered something unexpected. His wolf growled. A deep growl. Inside his mind. Protective. Aggressive. Mine. Kale stiffened. Again. That word again. The reaction made no sense. The king noticed. "So," his voice became sharper, "you'll lead the operation." Kale looked up. "No." The room went silent. No one refused the king. No one. Yet Kale had. The king's face hardened. "What did you say?" "I said no." Several guards stepped forward. Tension exploded across the chamber. But Kale didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't care. Finally the king asked, "Why?" The answer surprised everyone, including Kale himself. "Because something about this feels wrong." Silence. Then laughter. Nobles laughed. Advisors laughed. Even Celine smiled. The king did not. "You would disobey your king because of a feeling?" Kale's eyes became ice. "No." His voice remained calm. "Dying men have feelings. Dying kingdoms have feelings. Dying wolves have feelings." The room quieted instantly. "Instinct keeps us alive." The king leaned back, clearly unimpressed. "You've changed." Kale didn't answer. Because the king was right. He had changed. And recently something inside him had begun awakening. Something impossible to ignore. The meeting ended badly. Very badly. Later that night, Damon found him alone. "You just challenged the king." Kale shrugged. "I noticed. You could start a war." Kale stared out the window, his thoughts elsewhere. Far away, with a mysterious child he had never met. A child who somehow occupied his thoughts. Damon studied him carefully, then asked, "What aren't you telling me?" Kale remained silent, for a long moment, then finally spoke. "The boy." "What about him?" Kale struggled to explain, because it sounded insane, impossible, yet completely real. "I think." He stopped. Damon waited. "What?" Kale's heartbeat quickened. The feeling returned. Stronger than ever, like an invisible thread pulling him somewhere. Toward someone. Toward a destiny he couldn't understand. Then he finally said it. "I think I'm connected to him." Damon stared, speechless. Because Kale had just spoken the exact fear the king secretly shared. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Lena woke suddenly, heart pounding. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Outside, wolves were howling. Not alarmed, not frightened. Excited, almost joyful. Rowan appeared beside her. His face pale. What is it? The warrior looked toward the darkness, listening, then his eyes widened. No. Lena's stomach tightened. What happened? Rowan swallowed. Hard. The wolves are welcoming someone. Fear and confusion collided. Who? The answer came in a whisper. A shocked whisper. An impossible whisper. The Alpha. Chapter 7. The Alpha. The words struck Lena like lightning. For several seconds, she simply stared at Rowan. No. Her voice came out as a whisper. It can't be. Rowan looked toward the forest. His expression remained tense. That's what the wolves are saying. The howls continued. Not warning howls. Not battle howls. Welcoming howls. Respectful howls. The kind reserved for powerful alphas. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. After 6 years, 6 long years, could it really be him? Could fate truly be that cruel? Or that strange? Ethan sat up from his blankets, still half asleep. Mama? Lena immediately knelt beside him. It's okay. But her voice lacked confidence. The little boy frowned. Why are the wolves singing? The innocent question almost made her smile. Almost. Before she could answer, a powerful howl echoed through the mountains. Everything froze. Every wolf, every bird, every creature in the forest. The sound carried authority. Dominance. Power. Even Rowan's eyes narrowed. Then footsteps approached. Slow, steady, unhurried. A single figure emerged from the darkness. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black. A familiar face. A face Lena had not seen in 6 years. Kale. The world seemed to stop. Neither moved. Neither spoke. Neither breathed. 6 years of memories crashed into her at once. The promises, the heartbreak, the tears, the loneliness. Everything. Kale looked exactly the same, and completely different. Older, harder, more tired. His gray eyes found her immediately, as though he had searched for nothing else. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Ethan stepped forward. Curious, confused. The little boy looked between them, then back at Kale. Something strange happened. Kale froze, completely froze. Because he was looking directly into a smaller version of himself. Golden eyes, dark hair, the same stubborn expression. The resemblance was impossible. Absolutely impossible. The color drained from Kale's face. His gaze shifted slowly toward Lena. Questions filled his eyes. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Lena's heart sank. He knows. The realization arrived instantly. He knows. Nobody needed to explain. Nobody needed to say a word. One look at Ethan told the entire story. Kale's voice sounded rough, almost broken. How old is he? Silence. Lena swallowed. 6. The answer hit him like a weapon. She saw it happen. Actually saw it. His knees nearly gave out. 6 years. Exactly 6 years. The timing left no room for doubt. No room for denial. No room for hope. Kale looked at Ethan again. Then at Lena. Then back to Ethan. His breathing became uneven. You? The alpha struggled to speak. For the first time in his life, words failed him. Ethan hid slightly behind Lena. The reaction shattered something inside Kale. Because the boy wasn't afraid of wolves. Wasn't afraid of hunters. Wasn't afraid of danger. Yet he was cautious around him. A stranger. His own father. A father who had never been there. Kale lowered his gaze. Pain flashed across his face. Raw pain. The kind impossible to fake. Finally, he asked, "He's mine?" The question made Lena angry. Not because he asked. Because he had the right to ask. And she hated that. After 6 years alone. After 6 years protecting Ethan. After 6 years of sacrifices. Part of her wanted to scream. Wanted to tell him he had lost that right. But another part knew the truth. He deserved an answer. Slowly she nodded. Yes. The single word changed everything. Kale closed his eyes, as if the confirmation physically hurt. Then he looked at Ethan once more. The little boy stared back. Curious. silent, watching, father and son, meeting for the first time, neither knowing what to say, neither understanding what came next. Then, Ethan asked the question nobody expected. Are you the alpha? Kale blinked. The simplicity caught him off guard. Yes. The boy considered this carefully, then asked another question. Why are you looking at me like that? Silence. Pain filled Kale's eyes. Because there was no easy answer. No answer a child could understand. Finally, he whispered, because I've been missing you for 6 years. The words stunned everyone, including Lena, including Rowan, including Kale himself. Ethan frowned. But we never met. A sad smile appeared on Kale's face. I know. The little boy studied him, then nodded slowly, as if trying to solve a puzzle. Finally, he asked the question that truly mattered. Do you know my father? The world stopped. Completely stopped. Lena's breath caught. Rowan looked away. Even Nora froze. Because the answer stood right in front of him. Kale stared at his son. His son. The child he never knew existed. The child he had somehow searched for without understanding why. His throat tightened. Emotion overwhelmed him. Yet before he could answer, an arrow exploded from the darkness. Everything happened instantly. Kale moved first. Pure instinct. Pure alpha. Pure father. He threw himself forward. The arrow struck his shoulder instead of Ethan. Blood sprayed across the snow. Lena screamed. Chaos erupted. Hunters emerged from every direction, dozens of them. Hidden, waiting, watching. The king's elite soldiers. The most dangerous warriors in the kingdom. Rowan shifted instantly. His wolf exploded into existence. The surrounding wolves attacked. Growls echoed through the mountains. Steel clashed. Men shouted. The battle began. Kale ignored the blood pouring from his shoulder, ignored the pain, ignored everything. His entire focus remained on Ethan. Stay behind me. The command came automatically, protectively, like breathing, like instinct. The little boy stared, shock filling his face. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not with such fierce protection, not with such certainty. A hunter charged toward Ethan. Kale intercepted him immediately. The soldier never reached the boy. Another hunter attacked. Then another. Then another. Kale fought like a man possessed, like a wolf protecting his cub. And everyone noticed, including Lena, because for the first time, she saw something she had never seen before. Not the alpha, not the warrior, not the king. A father. A real father. The realization shook her. Deeply. Dangerously. Then the battlefield suddenly fell silent. A new figure stepped from the trees, dressed in royal armor, wearing the king's crest. The commander smiled coldly. Interesting. Nobody liked that smile. Especially Rowan. The commander looked directly at Kale, then at Ethan. Then back to Kale. Understanding appeared instantly. Oh. His smile widened. Oh. This is much better than we expected. Kale's eyes darkened. Leave. The commander laughed. I don't think so. The man slowly drew a scroll from his coat. A royal decree, sealed by the king himself. The commander raised it high, then announced words that changed everything. And by order of the crown. The wind howled. The wolves growled. Lena felt dread spreading through her chest. The commander unrolled the decree and smiled. Alpha Kale of Black Mountain Pack is hereby declared a traitor to the kingdom. Silence. Complete silence. Then came the second sentence. The sentence that made every warrior present pale. Any citizen aiding him shall be executed. Chapter 8. The decree fluttered in the cold wind. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Even the hunters looked uneasy. Declaring Alpha Kale a traitor was not a small decision. It was madness. The commander smiled, clearly enjoying the shock. Kale stared at the royal decree. His face showed no fear, no surprise, only disappointment. As if he had expected this all along. The commander folded the scroll. You can still surrender. Kale laughed. A short laugh. A dangerous laugh. The commander's smile faded. You find this amusing? Kale's eyes turned to Ethan. The little boy stood beside Lena, scared, confused, trying to be brave. Then Kale looked back at the commander. You're threatening a child. His voice was calm, deadly calm. That tells me everything I need to know. The commander signaled his soldiers. Weapons rose immediately. Last chance. Kale didn't even blink. No. The answer echoed through the clearing. The commander sighed. Then kill them. The battle exploded again, this time even more violent. Wolves attacked from every direction. Hunters screamed. Steel flashed beneath the moonlight. Snow turned red. Kale fought like a storm. Every movement precise. Every strike brutal. Yet his attention never left Ethan. Not once. A hunter rushed toward the boy. Kale intercepted him. Another appeared. Kale stopped him too. Again, and again, and again. Eventually, Ethan noticed. The realization slowly appeared in his eyes. The Alpha wasn't protecting everyone. The Alpha was protecting him. Only him. The thought confused the child, deeply. Then something unexpected happened. A hunter slipped past the wolves, past Rowan, past everyone, straight toward Lena. The soldier raised a spear. Lena had no time to react, no time to move, no time. Suddenly Ethan stepped forward. The world seemed to freeze. The little boy lifted one hand, instinctively, without understanding what he was doing. A powerful howl erupted across the mountains. Not from Ethan, from hundreds of wolves. Hundreds. The ground trembled. The trees shook. The entire forest answered him. Every wolf within miles. The hunter stopped, terrified. Everyone stopped, terrified. Because the impossible was happening. The wolves obeyed Ethan. Not some wolves. All wolves. The child stood motionless. Golden eyes glowing in the darkness. The hunter dropped his weapon. Fear flooded his face. The air. The words escaped as a whisper. Then another hunter repeated them. The air. More voices joined. The air. The title spread through the battlefield. The air. The ancient title from forgotten legends. The title belonging to the first Alpha Kings. Silence followed. The commander stared at Ethan. For the first time, true fear appeared in his eyes. Then he did something unexpected. He ordered a retreat. Fall back! The hunters hesitated. Now. The soldiers obeyed immediately. Within moments they disappeared into the darkness. Gone. Just like that. The battle was over. For now. Nobody celebrated. Because everyone understood. The hunters hadn't given up. They were afraid. And afraid enemies were often the most dangerous. Hours later, the group sheltered inside an abandoned fortress hidden deep within the mountains. The structure was ancient. Older than any kingdom. Older than most histories. Stone walls surrounded them, providing temporary safety. Temporary, nothing more. Ethan sat quietly near a fireplace. The events of the night had clearly affected him. Kale watched from across the room, unsure how to approach, unsure how to speak, unsure how to become a father in a single night. Finally, Ethan looked up. Their eyes met. The boy hesitated, then slowly walked over. Kale's heart nearly stopped. Every battle, every war, every enemy, none of them had ever made him nervous. This did. Ethan sat beside him. For several moments neither spoke. Then the little boy asked, "Did it hurt?" Kale frowned. "What?" "The arrow." The concern in Ethan's voice caught him off guard. Kale looked at the bandage on his shoulder, then smiled faintly. A little. Ethan considered this, then nodded. "You protected me." The simple statement hit harder than any weapon. Kale struggled to respond. Finally he answered, "Yes." Why? The question shattered him. Because how could he explain 6 years of loss to a child? How could he explain the love he felt instantly? How could he explain the bond already forming? He couldn't, so he chose the truth. The simplest truth. Because you're important to me. Ethan looked down, thinking. Then came another question, one that made Kale's chest tighten. Are you my father? Silence filled the room. Lena looked up immediately. Rowan stopped talking. Even Nora turned toward them. The moment had arrived. The moment nobody could avoid anymore. Kale swallowed hard, then slowly nodded. Yes. The little boy blinked. Just once. As if processing the answer. Then he asked quietly, Really? The pain in that single word nearly destroyed Kale. Because Ethan wasn't excited. He wasn't happy. He wasn't celebrating. He was afraid. Afraid to hope. Afraid to believe. Afraid to be disappointed. Kale recognized that fear. Because he felt it too. Really? Ethan stared at him for several seconds, then asked the question every abandoned child eventually asks. Why didn't you come before? The room became silent, painfully silent. Kale closed his eyes. The truth hurt, but he would not lie. Not to his son. Never. I didn't know you existed. Ethan watched him carefully, searching, judging, trying to decide whether to believe him. Finally, he turned toward Lena. Is that true? Tears filled her eyes. Slowly she nodded. Yes. The confirmation changed something. Not completely, not instantly, but something. Ethan looked back at Kale. Then unexpectedly moved closer. Just a little. A tiny movement. Yet it felt enormous. Like the first stone placed in a bridge. A bridge broken 6 years ago. A bridge now beginning to rebuild. Very slowly. Very carefully. Then Ethan yawned. The emotional day had exhausted him. Lena smiled softly. Come on. The little boy stood, but before leaving, he looked back at Kale. For a moment neither spoke. Then Ethan quietly said, Good night. 2 simple words. Yet Kale felt his throat tighten. Good night, Ethan. The boy smiled. A small smile. Then followed Lena away. Kale watched him disappear down the corridor. A strange warmth filled his chest. Hope, for the first time in years. Real hope. But fate wasn't finished. Not yet. Much later that night, Rowan entered the fortress library. The ancient room contained records centuries old. Dust covered everything. Most books had never been opened. Rowan searched carefully. Desperately. Eventually he found what he feared. An old journal. A forgotten journal. One written by the last known first Alpha King. His hands trembled as he read. Page after page. Line after line. Then he found it. The missing passage. The secret everyone had overlooked. The truth hidden for centuries. The color drained from his face. No. The whisper escaped before he could stop it. Because the prophecy wasn't about Ethan becoming king. It wasn't about ruling wolves. It wasn't about power at all. The prophecy predicted something far worse. Something terrifying. And if the ancient records were correct, Ethan would die before his 7th birthday. Chapter 9. Rowan ran. The ancient journal clutched tightly in his hands. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. The fortress corridors blurred around him. One thought repeated endlessly. No. 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 This couldn't be happening. Not after everything. Not after they finally found each other. Not after Ethan finally learned the truth. Yet the journal's words were clear. Terrifyingly clear. Rowan burst into the main hall. Kale immediately stood. What happened? The warrior looked shaken. More shaken than Kale had ever seen him. We have a problem. Kale's stomach tightened. What kind of problem? Rowan placed the journal on the table. The prophecy. The room instantly grew silent. Nora approached first. Lena appeared moments later. Still half asleep, Ethan remained in bed, thankfully, because he didn't need to hear this. Not yet. Rowan opened the journal. His hands trembled slightly. Then he pointed toward an ancient passage. The prophecy everyone knows is incomplete. Kale frowned. What does that mean? It means the kingdom only discovered half of it. Lena felt dread spreading through her chest. Slowly, relentlessly. What's the other half? Rowan swallowed, then answered. The heir awakens the bloodline before his 7th birthday. Nobody spoke. The first part wasn't surprising. Ethan had clearly inherited something powerful. But Rowan wasn't finished. The awakening kills him. Silence. Complete silence. Lena's world stopped. No. The word escaped instantly. Raw. Broken. No. Rowan looked devastated. I wish I were wrong. Lena grabbed the journal, desperately scanning the page, looking for a mistake, a misunderstanding, anything. But the ancient words remained. Cold. Merciless. Unchanged. No. Tears filled her eyes. He can't die. No one answered. Because nobody had an answer. Cale stared at the page. His face became unreadable. Dangerously unreadable. Finally he asked, "How much time?" Rowan's voice lowered. "Ethan turns 7 in 3 weeks." The room fell silent again. 3 weeks. Only 3 weeks. Lena felt as though she couldn't breathe. 6 years protecting him. 6 years loving him. 6 years sacrificing everything. And fate intended to take him anyway? No. Never. She would not allow it. Cale suddenly closed the journal. The sound echoed through the room. Every eye turned toward him. His expression had changed. Completely. Cold determination filled his face. The prophecy is wrong. Rowan blinked. What? Cale stood. The prophecy is wrong. Nora shook her head. Ancient records. I don't care. The force in his voice silenced everyone. His gray eyes hardened. No prophecy decides my son's fate. The words hit Lena unexpectedly. My son. Not the boy, not Ethan. My son. Cale continued. We find a solution. What if there isn't one? Rowan asked quietly. Cale's answer came instantly. There is. The certainty stunned everyone. Even himself. Because he wasn't speaking as an alpha, or a warrior, or a ruler. He was speaking as a father, and fathers rarely accept impossible odds. The next morning they began searching. Every book, every scroll, every ancient record. Days passed, then another, then another. Nothing, no cure, no answer, no hope. Meanwhile, Ethan remained unaware. Mostly. Children notice things, even when adults try to hide them. Especially when adults try to hide them. One evening, he found Lena crying alone. The sight immediately frightened him. Mama? She quickly wiped away her tears. But too late. Ethan had already seen. What's wrong? Nothing. The answer came automatically. The way parents always answer. The way parents always lie. Ethan frowned. You never cry for nothing. The statement hit painfully close to home. Lena opened her arms. The little boy immediately hugged her. What happened? She couldn't tell him. She simply couldn't. Not yet. So she kissed his forehead and whispered, I love you. Ethan smiled. I love you too. Then he added something unexpected. You don't have to be scared. Lena froze. The words felt strangely mature, almost knowing. What do you mean? The little boy shrugged. I don't know. He looked thoughtful, then touched his chest. But I feel something. Fear returned instantly. What kind of something? Ethan hesitated. I hear them. Lena's heart skipped. Hear who? The wolves. The answer chilled her. The mountains. The forest. The old kings. Lena stared, speechless. Because Ethan wasn't pretending, wasn't imagining. He genuinely believed what he was saying. The awakening had already begun, far sooner than expected. That same night, another disaster arrived. A scout burst into the fortress. Exhausted. Terrified. They found us. Everyone stood. Who? The king. Silence. The scout swallowed hard. The entire royal army. Lena felt sick. How many? Tens of thousands. The fortress suddenly felt very small, very vulnerable. Cale moved immediately. Prepare defenses. The command echoed through the halls. Warriors sprang into action. Wolves gathered. Weapons appeared. The final battle was coming. Everyone knew it. The next morning dawned gray and cold. The royal army surrounded the fortress. An endless sea of soldiers, banners, armor, steel. The king himself stood at the front, watching, waiting, smiling. Kale stood atop the fortress wall, Lena beside him, Rowan nearby. Below them, the king raised a hand. Silence spread across the battlefield. Then the king spoke, his voice magically amplified. "You cannot win." Kale remained silent. The king continued. "Give me the child." No one moved. "Give me the heir." The wolves growled. The king sighed dramatically. As expected, then his expression changed. Cruelty appeared. Pure cruelty. "I offered mercy." Kale's eyes narrowed. "What mercy?" The king smiled and delivered a devastating blow. "The mother lives." Lena froze. The king pointed toward Ethan, standing safely behind them. "The father lives." Then the king's smile widened. "Only the boy dies." The battlefield became silent, dead silent. Kale's wolf erupted inside his mind. Rage. Pure rage. The king laughed. "Why are you angry?" His eyes glittered. "The prophecy kills him anyway." The statement hit everyone. Because it contained a terrible truth. If the prophecy was real, Ethan was already doomed. The king spread his arms. "I'm simply saving everyone time." The words shattered something inside Kale. Completely. Finally. Forever. The Alpha stepped forward. His voice carried across the entire battlefield. Cold. Deadly. Certain. "If you want my son." The army listened. The king listened. The kingdom listened. Kale's eyes became pure ice. "You'll have to walk through my corpse first." The king's smile disappeared. War erupted. Wolves charged. Soldiers advanced. The fortress shook. The final battle had begun. But in the middle of the chaos, Ethan suddenly collapsed. The little boy screamed. Golden light exploded from his body, and every wolf in the kingdom howled at the exact same moment. Chapter 10. Ethan screamed. The sound echoed across the battlefield. Then the golden light exploded outward. Brighter than the sun. Brighter than fire. Brighter than anything anyone had ever seen. Every wolf stopped fighting. Every soldier froze. Even the king stared in shock. The light surrounded Ethan completely. A storm of gold and silver. Ancient. Powerful. Alive. Lena ran toward her son. "Ethan!" Kale reached him first. The Alpha dropped to one knee beside the boy. "Ethan!" The child trembled violently. Golden energy flowed around him. His eyes glowed. His heartbeat raced. And for the first time, fear appeared on Ethan's face. Real fear. "Dad!" The word slipped out naturally, instinctively. "Dad!" Kale froze. For one beautiful second. One impossible second. The battle disappeared. The war disappeared. Everything disappeared. Because his son had just called him Dad. Then Ethan cried out again. Pain surged through his body. Kale immediately grabbed him. "I've got you." The little boy clung to him, terrified. "It hurts." Kale's chest shattered. "I know. It hurts. I know." Lena dropped beside them. Tears streamed down her face. "Please." The prayer escaped before she realized she was speaking. "Please, don't take him." The golden light intensified. The ground trembled. The mountains shook. And suddenly, a voice echoed through the battlefield. Not from Ethan. Not from any person. A voice. Ancient. Powerful. Every wolf heard it. Every alpha heard it. Every living creature heard it. "The air has awakened." Silence followed. The voice continued. "The choice has come." Choice? Rowan immediately looked up. Choice? The ancient records never mentioned a choice. The voice spoke again. "The bloodline survives only through sacrifice." Fear gripped Lena. "No. No. Not Ethan. Please not Ethan." Then the voice finished. "The father may carry the burden." The father! Everyone turned toward Kale. Shock spread across the battlefield. The father. Not Ethan. Kale stared at his son, then at the golden storm surrounding him. Something clicked. Something ancient. Something hidden. The prophecy had been misunderstood. Not a death prophecy, a sacrifice prophecy. Rowan suddenly remembered another section of the journal, one he hadn't understood until now. The burden passes through blood. His eyes widened. Oh my God. Kale looked at him. What? Rowan's voice shook. The power. The awakening. The bloodline. Realization flooded his face. It isn't killing Ethan. Then what is it doing? Rowan swallowed hard. It needs an anchor. Silence. Then, understanding dawned. A terrible understanding. The bloodline's power was too much for a child. Too much. Unless someone shared it, carried it, protected it. The father. Kale looked down at Ethan. The boy's pain continued, every second growing worse. There was no time. No room for debate. No room for fear. Only a choice. Lena grabbed his arm. Her eyes filled with panic. What happens to you? Kale looked at her. The woman he never stopped loving. The woman fate finally returned to him. The mother of his son. And for the first time in 6 years, he smiled. A real smile. A gentle smile. I don't know. The honesty hurt. Because nobody knew. The ancient records ended there. No answers. No guarantees. No promises. Only sacrifice. Ethan cried out again. Dad! That was enough. More than enough. Kale leaned forward, pressed his forehead against Ethan's, and whispered, I'm here. Then the Alpha made his choice. Golden light exploded. The battlefield vanished beneath a storm of energy. The sky cracked with thunder. Wolves howled. Mountains trembled. And Kale screamed. Not from fear, from pain. Pure, unimaginable pain. The burden transferred. The bloodline shifted. Ancient power surged between father and son. For one endless moment nobody knew what would happen. Then, silence. The light disappeared. The wind stopped. The world became still. Ethan opened his eyes. Normal eyes. Healthy eyes. Alive eyes. The little boy blinked, confused, then looked at Lena. Mama? She burst into tears, immediately pulling him into her arms. Ethan. Her voice broke. Ethan. The little boy laughed softly. I'm okay. The words felt like a miracle. A genuine miracle. Then everyone looked toward Kale. The Alpha remained motionless, lying on the ground, not moving, not speaking, not breathing. Lena's heart stopped. No. She rushed toward him. No. The battlefield disappeared again. The army disappeared. The king disappeared. Nothing mattered. Only Kale. Only him. She dropped beside him. Tears falling freely. No. Her hands trembled. Please. No response. No movement. Nothing. The silence felt unbearable. Then Ethan stepped forward. Quietly, the little boy knelt beside his father. The father he had only known for days. The father who gave everything for him. Dad? No response. Ethan touched Kale's hand, and suddenly, a heartbeat, small, weak, but real. Lena froze. Then another heartbeat followed, and another. Kale inhaled sharply. Air rushed into his lungs. His eyes opened. The battlefield erupted. Cheers, howls, laughter, relief. Kale was alive. Weak. Exhausted, but alive. Lena laughed through her tears, then unexpectedly slapped his shoulder. Hard. Kale winced. What was that for? She cried and laughed at the same time. Don't ever do that again. A familiar smile appeared. The smile she remembered from years ago. The smile she thought she lost forever. I'll try. The king watched everything from across the battlefield, his face pale. His plan had failed. Completely. The prophecy was fulfilled. The heir survived. The bloodline survived. And now the wolves stood united. Behind Ethan. Behind Kale. Behind Lena. The king slowly realized something. He had already lost. Before the battle even started. One by one, his soldiers lowered their weapons. Then more followed, and more. Until thousands stood down, refusing to fight, refusing to harm a child. The war ended, not with victory, not with defeat, but with choice. Months later, the kingdom changed. The king abdicated, his power broken, his influence gone. A new council formed, one built by alphas, healers, warriors, and ordinary people. Peace slowly returned. For the first time in generations, the prophecy became legend. A story, a lesson, a reminder. But for Lena, none of that mattered. One warm spring afternoon, she sat beneath a tree, watching Ethan play. The little boy laughed as wolves chased him through a field of flowers. Happy, healthy, free, exactly as a child should be. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind. "Kale," she smiled. "You scared me." "I know." His voice carried amusement. She leaned back against him. Comfortable, safe, home. For several moments they simply watched Ethan. Then Kale quietly asked, "Do you think he'll ever forgive me?" Lena followed his gaze. Ethan was building a flower crown for a wolf, laughing the entire time. She smiled softly. "I think he already has." Kale remained silent, emotion filling his eyes. Then Ethan suddenly looked up. "Dad!" The word carried across the field. Bright, happy, certain. Kale smiled. The biggest smile Lena had ever seen, and immediately ran toward his son. Not as an alpha, not as a king, not as a legend, as a father. Exactly what Ethan always needed. Lena watched them together, father and son, laughing beneath the spring sun, and for the first time in many years, her heart felt whole, because the alpha who once left her for a princess had finally learned what truly mattered. Not crowns, not alliances, not power, family, love, and the second chance fate almost never gives. The end.